Let's assume that at the end of the day, the base amount is upheld, that it's $14.088 billion that is due to the plaintiffs. Something I wrote about today at PFT, it's not going to be simple to carve this pie up. There are 2.4 million residential customers who are part of this class action. 4.6 billion has been earmarked for them, and that 4.6 becomes, I want to make sure I have the number right, 4.6 times 3 is 13.8 billion just for them. 2.4 million. If you do the basic math, you divide 13.8 by, I think it's, what is it? It's if you divide 13.8 by 2.4 million, you're looking at 5,700 each. But there's going to be some that had it some of the years, some that had it one of the years, some that had it all of the years. I mean, these numbers could be all over the place by the time it's all said and done. And let's remember, before we start dividing that number up, the lawyers are going to get their piece. And people are going to be upset if the lawyers get 40% of 13.8 billion. That is, I'm multitasking here and I screwed it up. 13.8 times 0.4 is 5.52 billion. People will lose their crap over that. The argument in response is this antitrust violation that lingered in plain sight for 30 years. Think about it. Sunday Ticket goes back to 1994. This case has been hanging around for 9 years. Somebody had to bring it. Somebody had to see the potential merit. And this was a fight for 9 years. Case got thrown out. They had to go through the appellate system to get it reinstated. And then you got to fight, you got to scratch, you got to claw. Ultimately, you go to trial. You spend a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money. You get rewarded when you take on a risk like that. That's the incentive. There'll be a contingent fee agreement that was signed with the named plaintiffs and the lawyers who are handling the case. And the judge will have to approve it, but don't be surprised if it's a multi-billion-dollar reward. This is one of the reasons why, and I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Big companies hate class actions because it's a device for giving lawyers an incentive to go after companies that are harming a whole lot of people by a little bit. Because let's say I got a $5,000 claim against the NFL for gouging the price of Sunday Ticket so that they could protect the local Fox and NBC, or not Fox and NBC, Fox and CBS affiliate broadcast. Let's say that I've got that case. I go to a lawyer and I lay out my idea. And the lawyer's thinking, boy, it's going to be hard to prove. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do that. They're going to fight me. It's going to be expensive. I got to fly here. I got to fly there. Hey, if we win, how much do we get? Oh, $5,000. The lawyer's going to say, no, it's not worth my time for $5,000. But if you're one of 2.4 million who had this happen, maybe it is worth my time. That's where the class action comes from. And again, the companies hate it because it provides a device for letting a lot of people come together and go after a company that is screwing a lot of people on a basis that is so small they otherwise aren't going to be responsible. So that's why there's an incentive to take on these cases. That's why the lawyers want to take on these cases. And this is a way for basically private citizens, private attorneys on no public payroll. It incentivizes them to work as kind of like attorneys general who go out there and rectify things that the attorneys general don't have the resources, the time, the desire, the inclination to go after. So that's why the number is going to be big. And I defend it. I defend it. They deserve it. They had a vision of what this could be. They fought the NFL tooth and nail for 9 years, and they won. They deserve their fair fee as negotiated in the fee agreement with the plaintiffs who were named in the case. One of the concerns that's been raised with me about the amount, let's say it is 14.088 billion. What does it do to the salary cap? Salary cap go down? Do the players lose that money? Does it, like the money that was lost during COVID and they had to reconfigure the cap and the cap didn't grow quite as quickly for a few years because of the losses? Well, the good news for the players, These losses don't attach to them. They attach to the NFL. This money comes out of the NFL's end. And in a weird sort of way, the players benefit because they got a chunk of the revenues pumped up by money that was the result of antitrust violations. And when it's time for the chickens to come home to roost, the players don't have to pay. Now, you may see the NFL argue at some point with the union that we need something here because you guys got a benefit from this that you really shouldn't have gotten. I could see that because the NFL throws its weight around and it tries anything it can. The players should just say, sorry, nobody forced you to do your business in a way that violated federal antitrust laws. So none of this money, in theory, is coming out of the pockets of the players. There could be an effort by the NFL moving forward to try to balance things out a little bit. And one of the realities is I think we're far more likely to see 18 games sooner than later. That's a way to make that money back. There's a lot of people on social media that just think, oh, all of a sudden now hot dogs are going to be $50 and ticket prices to games are going to go up exorbitantly because they're going to pass that 14 billion along to the consumers. That's not how supply and demand and market forces and ticket prices work. They're going to pay this money. They'll find other ways to make it back, but they're not going to pass it along to you. If anything, they're going to pass it along to the networks, and they're going to get their money back from the networks, or they're going to pass some of it along to the players in how they go about calculating the cap going forward. But I think at the end of the day, this is just something where they're going to write the check and they're going to eat it. It's going to be about $450 million per team if the final result is $14.088 billion. I mean, that's a lot of money, but these teams can afford to pay $450 million if they have to. The one big question moving forward, wrote about this earlier today as well, is the NFL going to change anything about how Sunday Ticket is priced? Because they might ultimately win before the U.S. Supreme Court. The Supreme Court might say, hey, the way you've been doing it is perfectly fine. It's not an antitrust violation. It falls within the scope of your broadcast antitrust exemption, or you're not the end seller. You can't be responsible for antitrust violations as it relates to the setting of the price because you're not the one that was selling it to these people. They could win on the law, which would validate everything they've done, and they could keep on doing what they've done. But they won't know for about 2 or 3 years. Until then, what do we do with Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV? The class doesn't include 2023, so they already have one more year of, we're going to get sued for that year. Now, we may get sued for 2024. And then, maybe we'll get sued for 2025, unless we win. It's a high-stakes gamble for the NFL. Are they going to change the way that Sunday Ticket is priced? Are they going to make it something that's available per team? Are they going to drop the price of it? Remember, ESPN wanted to pay or charge, $70 for the full package and make a single team option available. There was the memo from 2017 that became part of the closing argument where the NFL was considering getting rid of Sunday Ticket and putting the games on cable. So it would be like a Saturday of watching college football where you go to the various sports channels and there's a game, there's a game, there's a game, there's a game. And you don't have to pay anything extra for it. It's part of your package of channels. It's part of your sports tier. Or it would just be a very affordable way to say, I live in New Orleans. I like the Bears. I want to see all the Bears games. I'm going to pay the price to have all the Bears games. The NFL has to decide what it's going to do. And at the end of the day, I don't care if the NFL wins or loses. We all need to recognize, and I say this knowing full well there's a chance somebody from 345 Park Avenue is going to call NBC and complain. We should all want the NFL to wake up and realize they've been screwing the consumer for 30 years. They've been deliberately overcharging for Sunday Ticket, requiring DirecTV and now YouTube TV to charge an exorbitant price so people will say, man, too rich for my blood. Give me whatever's on CBS or Fox. Even though I really don't want to watch Steelers Browns, I'd rather watch Vikings Bears. I can't watch Vikings Bears, and I'm not paying $389, $449, whatever the number is, to watch all the games. I'm not going to do it. That's what they've been counting on. Is that the way you should treat your consumers? To deliberately require the price of a premium product to be so high that you won't buy it, when they know damn well they could have made it available to you for a lot less money and you could have been enjoying these games all these years and not spending all that money for the privilege of doing so. So even if they win, even if the judge throws out the case, so they go to the Supreme Court and they get at least 5 justices to go along with them and they ultimately pay $0.00, I hope they're shamed into recognizing they need to do the right thing here. And I hope, and this is one of the reasons why I'm frustrated more people aren't covering this. The fans need to realize they've been screwed the last 30 years. I don't care what the NFL says about this. They have screwed the fans and the end users, the consumers, for 30 years by deliberately overcharging them for Sunday Ticket and not giving them the choice that they profess to make available. And they wrap themselves in the flag of there's free games available in every market. Well, that's fine. They're free, but I don't want those. I want the other ones. Make the other ones available and don't make it so damn expensive that most people aren't going to be able to afford it. I think that's it as it relates to Sunday Ticket. There'll be more. There'll be more developments. There'll be more takes. I have made a request to interview lawyers from both sides. The NFL respectfully declined to make anyone available. I think that's a missed opportunity to help people understand the case and why they're confident that they're eventually going to prevail. They sent out a detailed statement yesterday, and I'm in a position to ask fair, probing questions with meaningful follow-up aimed at helping people understand this. NFL said no. Let's see if the plaintiffs say yes. So we'll continue to cover this. Look, if you haven't heard, I practiced law for 19 years. I understand how these things work, and this is right in my wheelhouse. And also, it speaks to that part of me that loves pro football, but holds the NFL, the league office, to the standard that was sold to me by the voice of John Facenda in the early 1970s. And anytime I think the NFL falls short of that standard, I'm going to say so. And as it relates to Sunday Ticket, the NFL has fallen very short of that standard. The NFL has treated its consumers poorly over the last 30 years, and the reckoning has arrived. And to that I say, it's about time. And ultimately, look, the $14 billion in my mind, I just want it to be right for the consumers going forward. If it's decided they have to pay the consumers some money, fine. The better outcome is, let's be more reasonable in how we make these games available. Let's not play this game where somebody's got to spend more than they need to spend to watch the games they want to watch and have more flexibility to watch the games they do want to watch. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.